Many thanks for joining us for the midweek edition of Primetime News. I'm Michael Madimba. Leading tonight's bulletin. The extraordinary SADC Troika Summit that commenced in the capital on Monday concluded yesterday with a host of resolutions adopted. More from this report. SADC leaders have urged the Kingdom of Eswatini to initiate a national dialogue on the protests that erupted in that country in June 2021 amid a drastic deterioration in the human rights situation and lack of reforms. In a communique issued by SADC on Tuesday after the extraordinary SADC Troika Summit which took place in Windhoek, the regional leaders, while condemning the killing of Thulani Maseko, a leading human rights lawyer and political activist in the Kingdom of Eswatini, also called on all stakeholders and participants to remain calm and peacefully participate in the dialogue. The summit also noted the unstable security situation in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and condemned the upsurge of conflicts and activities of armed groups. It in addition adopted the draft African Union Declaration on the United States of America's proposed Countering Malign Russian Activities in Africa Act and urged member states to communicate SADC's position and reaffirm the stance of non-alignment on conflicts outside the continent and the region at multilateral fora. SADC also reiterated the call for member states to urgently respond to requests for critical capabilities to enhance the operational capability of the SADC mission in Mozambique. Reporting for Nampa TV, I'm Michael Madimba. Our next story emanates from the Ministry of Health and Social Services, where 2 employees and a businessman were recently arrested on allegations of fraud and corruption by the Anti-Corruption Commission. Emilia Kambuta filed this report. A statement issued by ACC earlier today said an investigation was launched into a payment of 300,035 Namibian dollars and 58 cents that was made without any services being rendered. This led to the arrest of Control Administrative Officer Movan Silawa, Victor Sekelo, a former driver at Ministry of Health and Social Services, and Stanley Griffiths, a businessman. The statement said that Ministry of Health and Social Services awarded Griffiths, the owner of Vehicle Care Fleet Maintenance Solution CC, a tender in 2020 for Hino truck conversion into a rollback. Griffiths allegedly then submitted a tax invoice for the said amount and purchase order of the conversion, both which were allegedly fraudulently and corruptly certified by Silawa and Sekelo to confirm that the work was done and the truck was delivered to the ministry, whereas the truck was not returned to the ministry. The ministry said Griffiths was paid and he spent the money and handed the truck over to a third party, but failed to pay the third party who retained the government vehicle since 2021. The case was reported to ACC in November 2022 when an investigation was conducted that resulted in the arrest of the 3 men while the truck was confiscated. They appeared in the Windhoek Magistrates Court last Friday and were granted bail of 10,000 Namibian dollars each. Their case is remanded to 18 April 2023 for further investigation. Reporting for Nampa TV, I'm Michael Madimba. Now, the Public Service Commission is concerned with the lethargic rate at which the review of Public Service Acts as well as the Public Service Employees Medical Aid Scheme is taking place. Let's have a listen.
There's an urgent need for these processes to be fast-tracked to facilitate the efficient management thereof and to improve service delivery to beneficiaries. It is high time that the officers dealing with human resources issues need to be modernized and restructured in order to respond timelessly to the growing public service demands and issues relating to human resource. New trends suggest that there is need to develop measures to ensure the diversity of the public sector and the Namibian society to accommodate the broader spectrum of human needs.
On to wildlife and conservation matters. The Minister of Environment, Forestry and Tourism spokesperson Romeo Myunda revealed that 87 rhinos were poached in 2022. He furnished the statistics during a wide-ranging interview with Nampa TV. Let's listen in.
Apart from the rhino elephant poaching, the rhino poaching, on the other hand, shows that we have had an increase in terms of the poaching figures, with 87 rhinos poached in 2022. This is very concerning for the ministry, especially considering the fact that 46 of these rhinos were poached in our flagship park, which is the Etosha National Park, where we are taking all the tourists, or which is the key tourist attraction to this country. The ministry is at the moment engaged on this issue. This is not something that we want to see in this country. We are engaged in trying to ensure that we re-strategize, we look into immediate actions on how to reverse this trend, especially that of rhino poaching, especially in the Etosha National Park, but of course also across the country. So the ministry is engaged with this. There are already interventions that are being implemented to reverse the trend of rhino poaching in the country. Some of them I cannot mention to the public due to the security nature of those interventions. But however, we are engaged on this issue. We do not want, or we do not wish to see our natural resources being plundered in such a manner. It is for this reason that we want to appeal to members of the public to continue aiding us in this fight against poaching in the country. We should, as a country, be able to reject poaching. It is contrary to the principles of conservation in this country.
When we return, labor unions express concern over the lack of official data. Leading tonight's primetime biz slot, labor unions within the country have expressed concern over the lack of official data that informs the planning and implementation thrust of national projects. Officials of unions made these remarks during a high-level visit from an international labor organization mission. More from this report.
I don't know whether we are going to succeed without statistics as a country, but that's the foundation. That's the foundation that we should lay first. We must work on correct statistics. If our statistics are not correct, the project will fail. It will also need for us to see how we are going to put the requirements in terms of that accelerations. Those requirements for us is needed.
The government to make really a budget towards not knowing who are we budgeting for. And the one thing that was really mentioned by my colleagues is also to say that the money that is coming into, we know for current state of affairs, Namibia is bound up with a lot of money. And I think if you don't have money, you have to come and say that please take this money and look at what this project of accelerating projects that if you want to see must be implemented. I think we should forget about it. Unless we want to have an instrument that will drive that project in the future from the fiscal process. Let's look at to say that let's put this money here and let's look at how I will account for that money. When we are good Namibians, we are good when it comes to stealing, we are corrupt. And we should accept that, because if you go look at the statistics, you see that every day there's a corruption case. Who was And I think it's a psychological thing that we also need to look at to say that how do we best deal with Namibians to say that, guys, you don't take what is not yours and then make sure that we need to look out for the well-being of others. And I think these are the things that is very, very important that we need to look at.
Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform Kailash Leitwai says Namibia has enormous potential not only to feed itself and eliminate hunger and food insecurity, but also to be a major player in global food markets. Let's find out why.
This potential lies in its vast land resources, in its water resources, in its marine resources, but last not least, in its human capital and its infrastructure, its institutions and its market access. Recognizing this opportunity, the Namibian government has designated agriculture as one of the priority sectors for economic advancements and social transformation. This ambition can be realized only when the current fragmented situation is replaced with a seamless integration of all subsectors in those three sectors that are forming the portfolio of agriculture, water and land reform. And as I said, it can only be realized if it is resourced properly and adequately. The scientific interventions that could be pursued to unleash the potential of the sector entail, amongst others, these points that I raise now. Investment in water generation and distribution infrastructure, giving the primacy of water security and food security nexus. This is out of the recognition that any development, agronomic or otherwise, cannot take place without water. In this regard, the government has commenced with an implementation of the National Water Sector Support Program that jointly funded in tune of 10 billion over the next 5 years, comprising of infrastructure development for water purification plants, desalination of seawater, and the development of underground water resources.
That's where the top news ends for this evening. Kindly stay tuned for the economics roundup, followed by what the weather has in store for us. welcome to Sport Planet. Football dominates the segment. Chelsea today confirmed the signing of Argentina's World Cup winner Enzo Fernandez from Benfica for a record British transfer fee of £106.8 million. Now, the 22-year-old whose arrival at Stamford Bridge was announced in the early hours of today by the Portuguese club has agreed an 8.5-year deal. The deal breaks the previous Premier League record set by Manchester City when they signed Jack Grealish from Aston Villa for £100 million in August 2021 and takes Chelsea's spending since the end of last season to more than £500 million. Meanwhile, Paris Saint-Germain's attempt to sign Morocco star Hakim Ziyech on loan from Chelsea has failed. This after the French league refused to ratify the player's contract, a source close to the deal told AFP today. Ziyech had passed a medical and the clubs had reached an agreement for the player to be loaned to PSG until the end of the season. However, according to sources, the Premier League club failed to send the required documents in time for the 29-year-old winger's move to be completed by the deadline. PSG therefore asked the French league for special approval, which was promptly rejected. Stand by for your sports roundup. With the sports news, we've come to the end of tonight's Primetime News edition. Many thanks for watching. Catch us tomorrow for another insightful edition. From myself, Michael Madimba, and the entire crew behind the scenes, it's good night.